Problems. So,
Yeah.
well, to that point, what is there anything in particular today that new or different, or what are you dealing with, or?
Not new or different. We got it's the pendulum has swung the other way. Um, Backed
And
up
they,
on work.
so it is to the point where now you can't keep up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And my scheduling's becoming more and more of an issue, especially with uh, things like delays in the contract signing, through the state and the federal, like we was talking, and um, things like that'll kind of throw you around. And I try to pile it back in and fill back with other stuff, and it's it's a mess. Plus, I've got three super complicated bids, all three of them about halfway done. Um, and then I need to get out you know, juggling, juggling. Then I got a project that's just taken a lot of my time. Um, like yesterday, I was in Winfield all day yesterday, and I didn't get a stitch of paperwork done until I got home. And that's with these other things hanging over me. It's the same thing every
Hmm.
week, just
It
different
sounds like
degrees of it.
construction. It sounds like a construction business, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, different degrees of it.
Well, and yeah, it's like I remember back when I was a kid, they had, oh gosh, I don't know whether it was on some TV show, and the guy spinning plates on sticks,
Yeah,
and he kept putting more plates on it and more plates on it, and he would spin them, and he'd run back and forth and keep them spinning, and it's kind of that thing. We've got all these plates, and you know, um, that's
then you got
organization, and
then you
you
got
know,
people standing on the side throwing plates out in the
yeah,
middle.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta, well, yeah. It's so, but ultimately, it comes down to prioritizing and organizing and scheduling, and then this is that whole flexibly rigid thing. It's that,
Yeah.
okay, so this job you were talking about that the had to go through all the jump through the hoops for the historical society. Well, I mean, your hands are tied on that. You can't do anything until that gets approved.
Right.
And so at that point, you go, okay, I've got to move it back down the list and move something else up. And, um, then you can look at things, and I used to work, well, I didn't work for them, but I was aware of them. But a lot of builders years ago would, to get a customer buy-in or signed off on, would start their project and then would pull off and start another project and then pull off and start another project. And they would have 5 or 6 different projects going and
Yeah.
not taking care of any of them well. Um, and so that's not a good thing either. But, those are the kinds of things where,
I had a cousin. I had a cousin that would get short on money, go get a masonry job, then come and steal either ours or my uncle's mixer and pull it up on the job and get a down payment.
and then go spend the money and not do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. With our mixer sitting on the job, that we're just like, we show up at the job, we're like, where's our mixer? So
Yeah. Well,
he wound
and
up
and,
in,
and that's really the thing, and that's where gosh, being aware of time and that kind of thing, and just because I know for me, I tend to be a little chatty, and that's on one hand, I think what my customers appreciate, because there's a little bit more of a, you know, um, personal realm to it rather than just them just
Yeah.
being a job. And
And you communicate all the points to them, whereas
for the
sometimes I
most
claim
part,
up
yeah,
and don't get all the
right.
communication right.
And even when the excuse me, even when there is miscommunication, you've got to keep communicating. Um, you know, job we're working on right now, and we got these cabinets built for it by a custom cabinet builder because she wanted them, you know, what she wanted. And there were a few things that were not spoken, or, if they, and that's part of it. You think you say something. Did you say it, or did you just think it?
Right.
Um, but basically, we put in adjustable shelves in all these cabinets. And she didn't want adjustable shelves. She wanted fixed shelves like they would have been in the 20s, because this house was built in the 20s. And okay, so now what are we going to do?
Mm.
Um, and I've talked to the cabinet builder, and he's already said, I want her to be happy. I will do whatever we got to do. I mean, I think he's to the point where he'd start from scratch and rebuild that, 15 or $16,000 worth of cabinets if he needed to.
See,
Um,
that's
and part of them were going to be open like bookshelves, and part of them are closed with doors. Well, it's the open ones because he now this is his mistake. He put doors on the ones that were supposed to be open. Okay, so, and he's already said he's willing to do whatever it takes to get this, and that's good. But I met with her yesterday because she lives out of town, and she was in yesterday, and we went over all this. And the sides are plywood. Um, the shelves are plywood. And she said, well, I thought they were going to be solid wood. It is solid wood. It's just plywood.
plywood. Yeah.
And I said, all the front stiles, the doors are, it's all solid wood, but it's not. And so in that conversation was explaining to her how, her concept of plywood was that it wasn't wood.
Right.
And I said, but it is wood. It's just layered wood, which actually makes it more stable,
Stronger. Yeah.
and less likely to warp, and less likely to bow, and less likely to twist. And but I spent an hour or more with her yesterday. We had taken the doors all off of those one cabinets, and the builder had already said he would take them back and fill all the holes and repaint them or whatever he needed to do. And well, then she was looking at them yesterday while we were there. She said, well, maybe we can just put the doors back on them. Well, I stuck a couple of doors back on one of them to let her look at it. And, we're still up in the air on it. But all of this she was under the impression that, and she may have said, I want the shelves to be fixed. I don't want them adjustable.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, why would you not want them adjustable? Because then you can have a lot more, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
options available.
And as what you're storing up there changes, you need to change your configurations.
Yeah. So ultimately, we don't know where we're going to go, but to the point of communication is, you know, we are where we are. Now we've got to go forward. We can't, I mean, short of starting all over, we can't, you know,
Right.
and, um, and she doesn't want him to have to do that. I mean, she's already expressed, that she feels bad, but at the same time, she wants what she's paying for. And so, the conversation I think went really well. and her mom's coming in today, and then she's going to look at him. Her husband is still in Texas, and so she was going to, talk to him, and maybe do a video call or whatever so that she could kind of show him what she had. And but I said, if either one of them have any questions, just let me know. Or Caleb would be happy to come up and meet with the two of us, and we can talk through options. And but that all comes back down to that communication. But to your point of scheduling, I had somebody in there installing them. They were there um, Saturday and Sunday. He was going to work on them over the weekend and try and have them finished Monday because his schedule had that open. I called him Sunday afternoon when this all transpired, and I had sent her pictures, and in an email or in a conversation, something had come up about adjustable shelves. She thought about that a while, and she's like, emailed me and texted me Sunday, and so I called her Sunday afternoon, and I told Gary, I said, just step away from it from a little bit until we figure this all out. And so that's adjusted his schedule. He's had to,
Yeah.
move things around. Um, it's adjusting my schedule and all of those things, but that's life, and we've got to be willing to. And but to your point again is that okay? So what you'd planned on doing this week has got put on hold because of the, you know, different levels of review that contract have to go through. Um, so you've got to go, okay, we've got to, what can we do? Let's get on
Yeah.
another one.
I plugged in another job, but the trouble with that is that that job hadn't fully gone through the process. I hadn't gotten all the material together. I hadn't,
Right, right. You
you
had to
know,
scramble a little bit.
we're having to scramble, yeah.
Yep. And
And I'm just, um, have, whenever that happens, invariably, I'm going to have a conversation with Dustin that leads to me just wanting to strangle the life out of him. Um, I wish
now
it
is
wasn't
that
that way, but it is that way every time.
is that because he's set on what he's going to do, and then you change it and it messes him
Yes.
up, and so he
Yeah.
pushes
He's
back
trying
on
to,
it.
we're both trying to scramble.
Yeah.
And yeah. So,
But scrambled eggs are really good, so just keep that in
uh,
mind.
yeah, but boy, sometimes it's a mess getting them to the good spot.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they're splattering out on the stove
Yeah.
and yeah, making a mess. But yeah, I think it is just, you know, so much of that is, it is about, prioritizing and
Mhm.
coordinating and organizing and scheduling and all of those different things. And I will say that's one of the things I love about my digital calendar is I can drag and drop stuff from here to there and go, okay, we were going
Yeah.
to do that this week. We're going to do it now. It's, we're going to have to put it back. And to that point, it may be that it's like you've got another two jobs you need to plug in. You may have to push that one back, 2 weeks now oh, got the helper.
Yeah, Junie wants some loving. It's, this is all on me, honestly. It's kind of my doings. I'm not, my organization needs to come to another level.
Yeah.
Uh, I struggle with prioritizing. Just okay, I'll prioritize this bid and knock it out because I'm sitting to think of what's going on with these other six things.
Right, right,
That's
right.
just creeping in. And that's on me. That's not on anybody else. But it's hard to make making priorities your priority.
Yeah. And to that point, then you've got to be flexible sometimes too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it may start out as your priority and then something comes along and you know you have
Apple
to shift
carts
gears.
Apple
And
carts get upset around here a lot. So
well, um I don't did you read this last week's blog post or listen to the podcast this morning?
I have not yet.
Well, it fits right in with this being too
No,
busy.
of course it does.
Yeah. And the next two are probably going to be more of that same thing, but it is about um a conversation I'd had with a friend, and his year, he had some goals and stuff and plans and so on that he's wanting to do this year. One of them is uh, um, sending or posting a blog post every week, and he hasn't got that done as consistently as he'd wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it was a combination of things. Back in the winter, early on there, um, they were having some really cold weather, and he lives in Virginia, and consequently, um, their home heating was not keeping up, and they had to have some work done on it, not scheduled. Um, he has a does a in a he has a workout trainer, so he can try and um, was trying to lose some weight and so on. And so, well, he'd had her for a few years, and she quit and was going to move on to something else, and left him scrambling trying to find somebody. He had a new grandbaby that had some medical
Mm.
concerns, nothing major, but just there was a lot of time spent watching the older grandbaby while mama and daddy were taking care of the new baby, and there's that. And then he's got some rental property on at Virginia, or at um well, they're on the shore, Gulf Shore, and or not Gulf Shore, but dang it. Anyway, Duck. That's where it's at. But anyway, um, he was working on some projects there, and one of the times he was there working, his wife was coming down, the car quit. They ended up having to go find another vehicle because that one was
Mm.
going to be too. Just all of these kind of things, and he was just talking about that. He said it's just been hard for me to um stay on task, and he was asking me, how do you get your blog posts out each week? And it's like, it's that thing. Is it going to be a priority or not to be consistent getting it out, or whatever the thing is that we're doing? And there are things that come along sometimes that go, okay, I've got to shift gears and modify this and do that, and but if you can, and that's so much of that is the planning that I do each day, the journaling, the that's I spend that journaling is a time in thinking through that and writing
Yeah.
it down and going, okay, what is the things today that are, most important? What is it that, if I can only do one thing today, what is it going to be?
Yeah.
And then, once you kind of get that there again, doesn't mean that things don't change, but yeah,
I think
so
I think one of the things I would I can see where your calendar would be a humongous benefit is if something does fall through, if something needs moved, you've got everything listed out that could slide up in its place.
right.
Whereas I have to stop and think and try to put it all together. I
I think
pick what
that's
needs done next.
right. I think that's really a really great point. And that's where, like I say, I've got that to-do list that I look through, and it's long. It's not going to everything get done. I know it's not. A
Right.
lot of them are priority things. So, um, and a lot of those have to do with other people's involvement. So, the Sunday school blog post that I put out needs to be published by the end of the day today in order
Right.
for it to go out on schedule tomorrow morning. Okay, I've got to finish getting it. I've got to have it written and to Emily so she can proofread it and look for pictures for it. She will upload those onto the website, and then I've got to go in and determine what pictures are going to go into it and hit the publish button. That's on me. So now I've got till midnight to do that, and there have been a lot of times when I have hit the publish button at midnight.
Right.
But then it's pre-scheduled. If it goes in, it will automatically go out the next morning. That's already set up. Well, so I did not quite get that done yesterday. I was working on the yesterday, but I went and met with Amy and thought it would be a 30-minute meeting. It ended up being an hour plus. that didn't give me time to finish it. I had another meeting last night I had to go to, and those are the kind of things when there's other people involved in a meeting that's scheduled, you kind of got to honor that.
Right.
And so as soon as we're done here, I'm going to plan on finish writing. But at 11:30, I've got a meeting with a customer. I need to go meet with a customer. Okay, so my intent is to have this done, this post done in the next 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't get it done quite, then I've got to look where I've got openings in the calendar or where I've got things that are a lower priority and I can move them. I've had this redrawing in my calendar. I was going to work on it yesterday. I was going to work on it Monday. It keeps getting slid back because there are other things that are signed contracts that I'm working on. This one may or may not ever come to fruition. You know, it may or may not. I told you, didn't I, that they were expecting again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thought I had.
Crazy. They're gonna.
So, but that's kind of
they're gonna populate
okay.
the whole valley.
Okay, but to this point, okay, here's one of the things that was said. The due date is in October. Okay. They are wanting to have as much of this done by then as possible.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, which makes perfect sense. But my point is that moves that up on my priority level a little bit more because now they're waiting on me to get drawings to them so they can decide if they want them. So I can put together numbers so we can figure out how we're going to do it in phases and so on. Well, you know, that moves that up in the priority list a little bit higher. And,
Right.
you know, it can be flexible, but I've got to, you know, so there again, another thing is Emily's going to be gone for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of May. Well,
right.
There are some things that she currently does, like the blog posting and some of the different things that are either going to be things she's going to have to pre-schedule and get them done. So they're like all of her social media posting. She's going to do that before she goes, and it'll all be scheduled to go out when it's supposed to. But the blog posts, I can't write the Sunday school blog post until after the Sunday that the sermon is made and we have our discussion in Sunday school.
Right.
So those two, I will either have to post them, or Georgia, that's been just started and does some working here in the office physically for me. We've got her now. We're working to get her online. So Emily's going to spend an hour and a half with her this evening, helping her with that process so she could do that while Emily's gone.
Right.
Well, I still have to get a couple extra blog posts written because we also have the podcast piece of this. So I need to have those done before early on so that Nick can record those before Emily leaves so she can get the podcast part of it scheduled. All of these things is life, and it's just a matter of going, okay. It's like a big puzzle and you got to put the pieces in it, and it just, there are some back to the priorities. When I do a puzzle, I find the square corners first, the four corners.
Right.
Then you find the outsides and you put them in. Then you start finding areas that you can see okay, here's a picture of something, and these are all part of that. So we can begin to put them together. That's what we do. This is what life is.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yeah, don't make it no easier.
Well, and it doesn't, but at the same time, I think that awareness and that understanding and then doing something about it are the parts that do make it easier, actually.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy like at the snap of a finger easy. It's just going to be, okay, what makes one thing a higher priority than another? And that doesn't mean that every day these things are going to always be the highest priority, because somebody is in a car accident and is in the hospital and you have to go deal with that becomes a higher priority.
Yeah.
And so, but it's that, I think, understanding all of that, knowing that this is how life goes, and then going, okay, here's how I'm going to organize the day to start out with, and then I'm going to, take it as it comes.
Contingency plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like kind of like we was talking about buying an excavator. It's you still got to dig, just makes it a
Yeah.
heck of a lot easier to dig.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you still got to do the
And
same things.
yeah, and you got to pay the payments, and you got to
Yeah,
pay the interest,
yeah,
and you got to, all
yeah,
those things that are going to go with that. And that's where you weigh that out and go, okay. The biggest thing about excavators or any equipment like that, skid loaders and so on, um, is the renting versus buying part of it, because it's like I can rent a Mini X. I need to have it sitting around and making payments on it and then not need it for a
yeah.
month?
Yeah, I'm just gonna get one of them cheap little Chinese ones, $5,000. You know,
Yeah,
I'm not making
but
payments. But that's money I could have used for some other stuff. But
well, yeah, and that's back to priorities. It's back to
yeah.
that, and
I'm
I mean, what's
also
renting one of them cost?
I don't know.
You'd spend $500 probably to rent a Mini X to do what you got to do on that foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm my thing thinking about this equipment is I'm also at least two laborers short, at least.
Right?
And
But
this
even so,
digging is
renting
very
still
labor
fixes that
intensive.
problem. Yeah, but renting a Mini X still fixes the labor
Right.
problem.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the
And it'd be
thing,
a
just
better
to the
machine.
saving,
It
huh?
would be a better machine and it would do it faster than the Chinese.
Well,
But
and I think the biggest thing comes down to there are two things I think that will factor in. One is availability, which typically finding a Mini X to rent is not going to be that hard.
not
There's
very
enough
hard.
different renters around and enough different that they likelihood of all of them being rented out all around the area would be slim.
Slim. Yeah.
Um, so availability would be one, to make sure that you've got it where if you've got one sitting in your yard, you go load it up on the trailer and take it to the job site, it's always ready. The other part of that is and I'm just picking numbers. If it's $500 to rent it to do that, or $5,000 to buy it, which of those is the better choice from a dollars and cents standpoint? Is it better to just spend the $500 now and put $500 in the savings transfer for a Mini X in the future?
Yeah.
And but I struggled with this a lot early on. I wanted a skid loader. I wanted one bad, and I rented them and used them and stuff. And I started running the numbers out, and it's like, holy cow,
Yeah.
I can rent one of those a lot of times, and then I don't have to worry about the upkeep or the insurance or
Oh,
anything when it's sitting
yeah.
around not getting used.
You're telling me I had three of them at one point.
I know.
So, yeah.
Just
So,
something to think about, but nevertheless, I think getting a Mini X and digging it out is a good idea.
I had three skid loaders and an 18-foot mini telehandler. Hmm. And I had payments up to about this level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, and
yeah.
and that's why I say, if it's a business that a person is using them day in and day out, and you've got people that can operate them and so on, then they're generating revenue, and that makes a
Right.
difference.
Right.
But for you, it's less about generating revenue. There's a little bit generated from the employee savings, and if you don't
Right.
have to have those two employees, you can go out there, you can run the Mini X, dig that out. Those other guys can do the shoveling, and um, I'll never forget Leonard Richardson one time said, and I may have probably told you this before, but I could take you right over to the slab that we were working on, and he had a couple of college students that were working, and we were wheelbarrowing sand in and spreading it out underneath the concrete slab. And one of the college students said, "Why don't you have why don't you do this with a skid loader?" Leonard looked at him and he said, "If I had a skid loader, I wouldn't need you."
Right.
The kid went back to shoveling, and that was the last he said about it.
Just happy as could be. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Little
it is
perspective.
that. Yeah, but it's a perspective. So,
And
all
well,
right.
what I always tell people about skid loaders, what I liked about them on the commercial jobs was they didn't have girlfriend troubles and they never got drunk the night before.
And there is definitely something to that for
Yeah.
sure, because that is an issue, but you can still take care of that even with a rented one rather than a purchased one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So, anyway. All
all
right.
right. Well,
Well,
I'm going to let you get to writing.
Yep, I'm going to get to writing before I run and have to go meet with a customer.
All right. We'll see you this afternoon.
All right, we'll talk to you then.
All right. Thank you. All right, bye.
You bet. Bye.